Welcome to the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast, a peek behind the curtain of some of the most intimate conversations that people have with Ezra as an intimacy coach. Join us for a session already in progress.
Welcome, Briana, to a very special episode of the Ask Ezra podcast.
Thank you.
And it's special in that we are turning the microscope. I am subjecting myself to your coaching here.
Okay. I know that I am much more excited about this than you are. You've already mentioned feeling a little bit nervous, which is normal and okay. And I just want to hit that with the disclaimer that anything that you don't feel comfortable sharing, any areas that you don't want to go into, you don't have to. You are in the driver's seat in this. It's my job to assist and support, not to force you into spaces that you're not ready to go into. So just lay that ground rule.
Fantastic.
At any point in time, cut it off. You can be mid-sentence, be like, actually, you know what? Never mind. And I'm okay with that.
I love it. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think it's interesting too, because sometimes people get this idea that therapists don't need therapy, coaches don't need coaching, and that's just bogus.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how we stay good at what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, that's like why we're drawn is because like we feel the need for these types of care. And so we get really good at caring for ourselves. And hopefully we get good at caring for ourselves. And then we try to use that to help people.
Definitely. It's like how we give the best advice to others that we need to give to ourselves. Same concept. That experience I find is very helpful for upping the game when it comes to coaching. And if you're comfortable, I'd like to go ahead and use something you just said to transition into the actual session. Are you okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready.
Okay. So you mentioned caring for other people, and ideally we care for ourselves. That's one curiosity I have for you because of something that you mentioned before about being available, but not necessarily emotionally available. And I'm curious what that looks like and feels like for you.
Yeah, no, and I think that there's this weird disconnect that I've identified, but I still don't really feel the bridge between that disconnect. And that's like emotional availability. And I think I was emotionally unavailable for a long time. I went through my second divorce in 2021. And I probably rushed into my second marriage after my first marriage. I think it was maybe less than a year before I like met that person. I was with them for 4 years, like before we got married. So I didn't rush into the marriage per se, but I think I like rushed to fill the hole of the first marriage and maybe didn't process it all together in the first place before getting into the second relationship. But after my second divorce, I really felt emotionally unavailable. Like it was my job to hold space for myself, be my own partner, take my time. And it's been 2 years. So I've taken time. I'm officially not rushing into my next relationship. And I think I've always wanted companionship. And I have a couple partners right now. And I think at one point I was like, thank you for being so kind and loving to me, even though I'm emotionally unavailable. And she's like, why do you think you are emotionally unavailable? I can't make any promises for the future. And it's, yeah, so what? Like, you're there for me when I'm having a hard time emotionally. You share your feelings. You care about my feelings. So I think I am emotionally available. And I think I want to play the role of being emotionally unavailable because it's like safer or something. Which is really weird because it's not honest, right? It's not accurate. Maybe I'm lying to myself a little bit.
Perhaps.
And I think having fun is great. And I don't have a problem with having fun. I still want to have a lot of fun. But I think that I do want loving relationships. I do a lot better in loving partnerships than in these like casual things that feel a lot more dangerous to me.
Okay. I'm going to reflect back a few things that I heard, if that's okay. So you shared, first of all, thank you for sharing so much, because you shared some personal aspects of, marriage and divorce and relationships and some of your internal workings and perceptions. So I'm going to reflect, and then I'm going to have a few questions if I've gotten everything accurate. You talked about coming out of your first divorce and rushing into things. That sounds like maybe you weren't quite fully ready from a psychological level and emotional level to be in that second marriage necessarily. And it sounds like that may have caused some issues for you. And then this go round, you said you have taken more time and you do feel like you're more healed, but you're also talking about your perception of feeling like you're not emotionally available, but also this duality of maybe the question of maybe I just want to be in that role of not being emotionally available because it's safe, a protection space for you. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, and I think there's some real world consequences to playing that role. I have two partners and I care for them. I do, but they're also like not in life partner mode. So I got what I asked for.
Also safe. Yeah.
Yeah, but still feeling very alone and still feeling like I would love to be able to talk these life choices through with someone. I would love to be able to have a companion, and that it feels impossible. It feels like an illusion almost.
The potential for having a life partner and someone that you can share those things with.
Yeah, it does feel. And I think the perspective of a coach can be challenging because we tend to interact with people who are having challenges, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I assume there are people who have really happy partnerships out there, and I tend to not see those people. I don't have evidence.
Yeah, the way that we gravitate to each other. I understand that. I can relate to that actually. That's very relatable for me. Everything that you just said, the
Yeah.
resonance, I get it. So what do you identify as being emotionally vulnerable and available? And those are two separate questions, because you said that you don't feel like you're emotionally available. So let's start there. How do you view emotional availability? What does that look like to you? If you were to say, I'm emotionally available to you, it looks like this.
Yeah, I think the easy way to answer that is to say like somebody who's open to love, right? I think being emotionally unavailable really means, okay, we can have some fun, but don't fall in love. If that happens, I'm out. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really not where I'm at. I think I definitely have one partner who is like deeply in love with me, and I love them. I'm maybe not in the same way, but I'm looking at the symptoms. I'm looking at the behaviors, and behaviors are all in line, right? They're not
Yeah,
acting inappropriately. They're not like
yeah.
being possessive or like being unreasonable or so. Yeah, I think by that definition I am emotionally available because I want to love people. I want to love my friends. I want to love my
Mm-hmm.
lovers. I'm open to being in love. So I think when we look at it that way, I am emotionally available. I think that maybe that there's this narrative of emotionally available means being ready to jump on that relationship escalator that like goes from
Yeah,
one step to the next, and
yeah,
okay, first you date, then you move in together, then you move somewhere together. I don't know.
yeah,
It's silly, and I think it's outdated, but I think for a long time I was not open to a relationship that was likely to escalate.
yeah.
And I think I'm open to that now. And I think that there's also a different perspective about like why escalate. And I think before it was this idea of time has passed, so you should escalate, right? You've been
Mm-hmm.
together
Yeah,
for a year.
okay, it's time. Yeah,
Yeah. And I
time for
don't,
the next escalator.
yeah. And there's nobody pressuring me to do that. And I know better now. So I don't think I'm at risk of accidentally
Yeah.
escalating relationships that don't really need to be escalated. And I've also successfully de-escalated relationships and managed to maintain them which is something that never happened before. It was like escalate, and at some point you're gonna jump off.
Yeah, like, oh crap, and shit.
Yeah, I guess it's just a, I don't know. Like maybe I'm attached to this old paradigm of the relationship escalator and like the knowing where things are going kind of thing. And
Mhm.
that's really the only thing that's stopping me. But I think a lot of people are too. And so that's a paradigm you can jump into and plenty of people are willing to play.
Yeah, the perception of this is how it's supposed to be done and you're doing it wrong if you don't do it
Hmm.
this way, or you're rushing into things, or you're not going fast enough, or yeah, the societal norms, which let's be real, the norms are a little bit dysfunctional sometimes and isn't normal, just more subjective depending on the culture and situation.
Yeah. Unlike dating, like what is dating but like interviewing for that relationship escalator, right?
A job interview. It's totally a job interview. Thank you for your application. Your first interview will be at this pizza place at 3:30.
Well, let me
Let's
tell you, the
go.
market is rough.
The market is you are absolutely right.
Uh,
Okay. So I'm hearing a little bit of a wall of awareness, which I love, because not everybody is aware of their walls and obstacles. But it sounds like there's a wall of awareness that there is this baseline expectation and this template, so to speak, that it seems to be nagging at you. Oh, this is the way you're supposed to do it. But there's also the part of you that is Ask Ezra and intimacy and doing what you do, of just what you do and what's best for you and your partner is the way to go, correct?
yeah, and I think that I made peace with the demise of the expectation for partnership, right? Maybe I am okay never having a life partner, right?
Mm.
I did the math of like how often do I get laid? And I was like, how many years do I have left? If I could keep this
Yeah,
up, that's not a bad score. I'm not going to tell you how many that is, but it's more or less than you think. That's what I'll say.
that's great.
But I think the alternative is like making friends, being good to my friends, and having some of those friends that I'm intimate with, sexually or otherwise. And that doesn't sound terrible. It's like solo poly. I'm
Yeah.
like involuntarily solo poly, but maybe I've just been voluntarily solo poly while I'm healing, and then that's going to change. But it's this weird fork in the road sort of situation, and maybe I don't need to make a choice. Maybe it's not a fork in the road. It's more if I'm okay with either one, then whatever comes along, I'm prepared for.
Mhm.
But as somebody once said, when you see a fork in the road, take it.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're comfortable with whatever could happen one way or the other. So if you are just maintaining, you've or not comfortable with it, but you've made peace with the fact that might be a reality.
Yeah, I think I would be sad to reach the end of my life without like a life partner. But at the same time, it's not terrible. It's not a if I can be good to my friends can be good to me. I can
Yeah.
still have partners. It's just not like a life partner. But I would love to like cohabitate. I would love to you have a nesting partner or an anchor partner. Yeah, I would love that. I think maybe less anchor partner and more nesting partner. But yeah, who knows? I used to be really insistent on rigid power exchange, and I think that's changed a lot too. Like, I'm not looking for a master slave relationship anymore. I'm not looking for like owner property or dom sub. I think I still want somebody who can play that game in the bedroom for sure,
Yeah.
but I'm not looking for the game to extend outside the bedroom in a way that I used to be.
Gotcha. So how do you feel about vulnerability?
Generally, I'm fairly vulnerable. Generally, I'm willing to be vulnerable. I tend to be like too vulnerable. Like I'm vulnerable with the wrong people and then I get burned as opposed
Mm.
to like shutting off and being inaccessible. That's my problem is I'm too vulnerable. I'm vulnerable with the wrong people, and then I wonder why they're terrible to me. It's because they're not even my friends. They're just
Yeah.
pretending.
Gotcha. Too vulnerable with the wrong people. That's one full sentence. Gotcha. Okay. I hear you saying that there is a desire for a nesting partner or a life partner in some way, but you've also mentioned a few times that almost like you're running the odds on it. Like the likelihood of that happening seems so low that there seems to be some underlying feelings around that that I haven't quite placed all the way. So I would be curious to hear what emotions are driving that duality of desire, but discouragement hand in
Yeah, I
hand.
think it's grief. I think there's some grief in there. It's if I'm looking for a job, the question is, do I want a career or do I want a gig? Right? And I'll take either, but I'm not holding my breath for a career in a gig economy. Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, and it's weird because it feels like a resignation. It feels like giving up a little bit. Like I always wanted a partner. I always wanted a teammate, and I thought I'd be there by now. I turned 38 this year.
I
Um,
understand.
some people don't meet their life partner until they're 60, and then they have that, and it's wonderful, and they're. But I think, yeah, no, and I think that the path forward is unclear. Like it's not clear how I would go about getting a partner besides going to events that people are trying to find partners at. Polyamorous speed dating would be like a good
Yeah.
place for me to go, but it
It
all feels
increases
so
the odds.
desperate.
Ah, really? Why does that feel desperate?
I don't know. It feels like forced. It feels like I don't know. And maybe I would feel better if I got more attention at those kinds of events, but for whatever reason, I'm not seen as the prime candidate. I haven't had a date in 2 years for sure. I don't know. That's not true. It depends on how you define a date. But I haven't
Yeah.
met with somebody who was evaluating the job interview style, right? Where is this a
With that
good match?
intentionality.
Yeah. I have met with people who are friends that, and it's hey, maybe we'll do something, but that was just what it was. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know.
So
I
if your
wish
desire, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
gonna say I wish there was more jobs out there. That's all.
I understand. And I'm thinking if you're, I'll use the word goal loosely, but if your vision or desire or hope is to have that life partner, and it sounds like you're an odds person because of your doubt of actually finding that lost life partner, because you're unique. Everyone is unique in their own way, and you're special, and you have certain things that you want and need, and you're obviously aware because you're talking about I'm too vulnerable with the wrong people, so that's not working out for me. And I'm in
Mm-hmm.
this situation and it is working well for me with being intentionally solo poly, and this were the situation I could make peace with that. So if you have that desire and you also are looking at the odds, would that not increase your odds to be interacting with people that are being intentional of this is my lifestyle, this is what I'm seeking. I would like to meet with other people that are also of this frame of mind.
Yeah, for sure. I think part of my discouragement comes from like really knowing what I want. And I've heard a lot of women say how attractive it is to meet a guy who knows what he wants, right? Unless it's
Yeah.
not fucking you, then it's not so attractive, right? Because
Mm.
I'm polyamorous
Mhm.
and I'm kinky. And
Mhm.
that's a narrow target. That's a real slim target. Like
Yeah, but I guess it would make the shaving off a little bit easier, right? So there's a lot more resumes that you could shuffle away. Because it's like if that's a narrow target, say, hey, look, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. If you don't fit that criteria, it doesn't matter how wonderful and lovely you are. Compatibility wise, we're not going to work, right?
yeah, and I think polyamory opens me up too to vanilla relationships. I could have a vanilla partner. I could have a polyamorous partner who isn't kinky and be
Mm-hmm.
okay because we're
Yeah,
poly.
probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I might need to let go of some expectation of sexual compatibility in order to be
Mhm.
successful. I think, they don't need to be into BDSM to be a decent life partner.
Right. As long as they're poly, so that you have that need fulfilled in another way. Seems
Yeah.
like that's the base criteria of if you're not into poly relationships, don't even.
Yeah, poly is, and what gets me really is like people who go like, I'm open to either monogamy or polyamory. And it's, are you? Are you really? Or are you just gonna be polyamorous until you can pressure somebody to be monogamous?
Ooh, awkward. Yeah, that's. I want to clear that up a little bit, define those edges. That's funny because I've had some of these types of discussions a few times recently, and somebody mentioned that on one of my dating profiles it says open to exploring and also monogamy, and they were curious about that. What does that mean? Oh, for me, when it comes to being polyamorous within my relationship, that's not necessarily something that I'm open to, just because of my experiences and my perspectives. But if
Mm,
a healthy couple who is into polyamory is doing something like that, I wouldn't be opposed to exploring that
sure.
within their relationship because those are their boundaries and their confines, and I'm coming into that. I'm
Hmm.
not saying this is what I'm creating. So it's a new world for me. It's so expensive.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely, I don't mean to poo on anybody. And I think that doing polyamory because you're not sure about whether it works or not is
Yeah,
definitely one thing.
yeah,
I fully support exploring. You can't know everything,
yeah.
but I think that there's a few people, and it feels like an unfortunately large group of people that are
Hmm.
like, really what they want to say is they're open until they find the right person. And
Wouldn't it be easier to just say that I'm not dating exclusively until I find my person, and until then we're in an open dating relationship?
it would be if, but I think that polyamory is popular.
It is.
And we
It's
tend
a
to be
it's a
really good
buzzword,
lovers, so it's a go for that.
right? I mean, blessed. That's the benefit, right?
Some research suggested that like polyamorous people have a lot more sex, but the STI incidences is equal to the people who are having
Really?
much less sex,
That's interesting.
because we're more risk aware. We're more thoughtful about the
Right.
risks we're taking, as opposed to
That
people
makes
who are
sense.
cheating tend to
Because you're
sneak
having
it.
conversations about it. Like, hey, if you're going to be with other people, we need some boundaries around this if you're in a healthy poly
Yeah.
relationship.
That's what I've heard. I
That makes
don't know, but
It makes sense, though. It does. All right. So I see a
this
very
guy.
clear vision of you. You're fine, who you are, how you are, what you want. You do seem to have a very clear vision for yourself with some doubt of being able to find the person. But I also heard a little bit of a shift in your tone and body language when you said, maybe you opened up a little bit more. Maybe I'm limiting myself too much because I could be in this situation with the right person because I've already created this for myself where I know why I like poly relationships because that offers more variety for me. That's a part of who you are in your sexuality.
Yeah. No, and it may be a bit of a cop out on my part to
Hmm.
insist that partners be both kinky and polyamorous, right? Because
Okay.
I could say, "Oh, I can't find anybody." It's just no, there's
Yeah.
whereas really that's not a need, it's a want. And I can be less focused on sexuality in my pursuit of partnerships. And
Yeah.
that would help my odds a lot.
That's an interesting and wonderful observation. You have a lot of insight and you have a lot of self-awareness. That's
I,
something that not so many people have these days.
Brianna, I'll say I remember in our previous episode, like interacting with your ADD and like having to keep you on track. You are dogged. You are like relentless and you're on track and you won't let me get distracted here. So this is funny. This is like conditional ADHD. Your ADHD is
Uh-huh.
nowhere
So
to be found right now.
I know I found that with certain, so I, when things that I am passionate about, I am the type of ADD person or ADHD person who I definitely fall into the hyper focus category as well. So I
Mm,
am very passionate about life coaching. I'm passionate about people in general, especially people that want to improve themselves in some way or just want to grow. Being the type of person I am, which sounds like the same type of person that you are, like I tend to attract people that have problems, that want help, want support. Now, the issue has been focusing on, okay, someone who wants to help themselves and is willing to help themselves, those are the people that make sense to give my time and energy to. The
Mm.
people who just want someone to make them feel better, yeah, or to fix them, like, okay, that's the stay away from category. But I can offer
Mm.
you validation, and I can offer you little jewels, and I'm happy to plant some seeds. And then I need to set some boundaries for myself so that I have my own space for me and energy and time for me. Because when you naturally give to other people, and that's what you want to do, is I'm pouring into you, but also I need to take care of me too. Like, it's a delicate balance, but absolutely with coaching, I am laser focused because
Mm.
this is exactly where I want to be, exactly what I want to be doing, and the focus is you. I'm very good at
Yeah.
pouring into other people.
No, and I think you're so right too, because if you're pouring your energy into those people who aren't going to be making a difference in their own lives, then you're not seeing the return, and you're like, why am I even here? What am I even doing?
Mhm.
And yeah, that's not the right kind of person. And I'm very
Right.
interested in developing and changing. And I think that adds, it sounds attractive on paper, but I think that
Mhm.
it's actually really scary for a lot of people, because a lot of people
Mhm.
are just not moving, and they're like, this
Yeah.
is where I am, this is where I want to be. And if you're going to be changing, then how do I know who you're going to be tomorrow? And so that has been a barrier for me, because I wasn't always growing so quickly, and
Right.
I was able to be settled around people who were settled, and I lost my community in a way, because I am interested in growing so much, and
Yeah.
it was threatening to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
You outgrow people quickly when you're willing to evolve. Everybody, some people have pages, chapters, books, but you never know. Is that still something that's a little scary to you, or is that something that you found more comfort in?
the loss of community, which,
All of it,
yeah,
the
all of it.
growth, the fact that you're very interested in growing, but also recognizing that as long as you're on that growth path, there is that possibility that no matter what situation you're in, your community is going to be constantly evolving and changing because you're going to be changing.
I don't think it's scary to me. I think that it is unnerving, perhaps, is maybe a way to put it. Of, I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I don't know what the next community that I can build looks like, or the community I
Mhm.
can access looks like. But I have felt such relief, because I was really angry and I was really sad. I was like drowning in grief, and I am not. I am no longer below the water. And
Nice.
it's such a relief, and I feel so much more present. Like, I was wasting, I don't know, maybe wasting is not the right thing. I was using so much energy to keep my bags packed and to keep that stuff put away, that
Yeah,
I wasn't really present.
gotcha.
And now that I've been able to unpack those bags, I can be so much more present. And like, the beauty of the world has increased tenfold. And so I don't regret it, and I don't hesitate on a step forward, right? Because I
Yeah.
know that there is being more awake in front of me
Mhm.
if I keep walking. And I get
Absolutely.
excited too. Like, when I think about what kind of partner is right for me right now, is really exciting. Like, I don't know who
Yeah,
that is. I don't know where to find them. But like, when I think about that person who can match my energy, that's really exciting to me.
I like that. Can we do a little experiment? That's
Sure, yeah.
okay. I'm gonna ask you to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that.
Okay.
And I want you to imagine what it feels like to be with the perfect person for Ezra. Not necessarily what they are like, but what you feel with the perfect person. What is that emotion in your body and your mind? What comes to you when you imagine that?
It feels like an extra set of wings. It feels like an expansion in like safety and capacity. Like, in it, like, I would be willing to take even more risks with that
Hmm.
person by my side, because I know that they'll be there for me.
Sounds very freeing and safe. Extra set of wings. I like that.
Yeah, or maybe a parachute. I don't know, a parachute. Parachute's like the wrong thing. An extra
Backup shoe.
rocket booster.
Ooh, even better. Yeah, I made an audible sound when you said extra pair of wings, but I muted myself because I needed to blow my nose so I didn't get sniffly.
Yeah.
So I do want to point out two different versions of yourself. One, the hope that you're bringing forward now, that feeling of freedom and joy and just openness to receiving whatever's coming your way, as opposed to how you vocalized before that there was a lot of doubts that there really is that person or that space, and some discomfort, some different emotions around like falling into that space of my future person, my future path. So I'm seeing two different things, and I'm wondering where the bridge is there, because you're obviously willing to unpack your bags and to go to those uncomfortable places because you know that's where the growth is. But I'm seeing two different things that I'm sure they're in the same basket for a reason. I'm curious what the connection is there.
So what's the connection between the like giving up feeling and the hope feeling?
Mhm. Yes.
Maybe like the giving up feeling is like a safety net. Like I know you can do all the right things and still not get what you ask for,
Yeah.
right? And I want to be okay not getting what I'm asking for.
What would give you that security?
I don't know. I think you talk to people end of life and they very consistently say, I wish I would have taken that risk. I wish I would have
Mhm.
shared my feelings. I wish I would have, you know, loved openly, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so I think of being at end of life and knowing that I put it all on the table. I won't have anything to regret. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be missing out on having, even if I don't ever end up with a partner, but
Mhm.
knowing that I tried.
Yeah. You're gonna live your life so that you're less likely to have regrets at the end. That's a great intentionality to have.
Yeah, and I don't think it's weird because I don't think of this idea of being okay with never having a life partner. I don't
Hmm.
think of it as like a cop out, but I think maybe it is, right? Like maybe there are certain times when I could take the risk and I go, meh, it's okay, right?
Do you think that you're holding yourself back
Yeah.
with that safety aspect? Okay. Is
I
that something you want to break through?
I was like, I have seen limitless potential, and then I see that I live in a world with limitations. And so I know 100% I'm holding myself back in ways I don't understand. And
Yeah.
so I can so quickly say yes, not because I see exactly how I'm holding myself back, but because I see
Yeah.
the consequences of living a limited life.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. And I do, you say that you don't know the ways that you're holding yourself back, but I want to point out there's multiple times that you have very clearly vocalized, maybe I'm holding myself back here. Actually, I think I might be limiting myself with the type of sexual partner of like,
Yeah.
actually, maybe that's not a criteria for me. And you mentioned in another conversation that dungeon role, like that's a comfort space. But when it comes to just more free flirting of just like that obscurity, almost that
Mm,
risk of obscurity, it seems like that's where the safety net comes in of just, okay, I'm not sure how this is going to go. So let me
yeah.
put my safety net on just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. And to fill in the gap there, the conversation was like, I don't know how to flirt outside the dungeon. Right? In the dungeon, I very clearly know, hey,
Very
you're
clear. Yeah.
kinky, I'm kinky. Like what
This is what we're doing.
yeah, what makes you kinky? What are you trying to do? That's really easy for me. I think what's really hard for me is being out in the world and yeah, knowing I have claws and being like, I don't know if you're into claws or not, right? But
There's a real fast way to find that out.
right? I found kinky partners before I found the BDSM community, I found kinky partners. So I know it's doable. There's an energetic thing. There's this weird like subconscious communication that does happen. So I just have to have faith in that, shoot my shot. But what was the question?
It wasn't a question so much as an observation.
Okay.
That
cool.
The original question was, do you feel like you're holding yourself back? And it was a pretty resounding and clear yes, absolutely, but I'm unsure where. And then I was pointing out that you actually do seem to have a lot of awareness of where you're holding yourself back for saying that something is a certain way when it doesn't necessarily need to be, and exploring that possibility with curiosity of maybe this is actually getting in my way of me getting to this goal, or this desire rather, of having a life partner, someone who may or may not be kinky. Now, okay, so maybe that's not a criteria, but definitely poly, that needs to be there, because if they're not kinky, it needs to come in somewhere.
Yeah. And even they could be the kinkiest person in the world, they still need to be poly, because this idea that somebody's supposed to be your everything, it's just, to me, it's bogus. If it works for you, great. But for me, I can't live that way.
That's why so few people make it happily to the end of their life together in many years. Because I think the likelihood of finding someone that fits all of your criteria and you evolve in complementary ways, the likelihood of that is pretty low. So I do understand that perspective, 100%.
Somebody said that. Okay, no, go ahead. I was getting distracted. Go ahead.
Okay, I think my next question to you is, I know it sounds a little bit formal, but have you ever written out your ideal partner wish list of these are, because you talk about wants and needs. These are my needs. They have to have these. If they don't have these, I'm sorry, you're off the list. And then the wants of, these are the things I want. And then you can even prioritize those. This is a very high want. This is a good one. If they don't have it, I'll be super disappointed, but I can live with it. Or this one's okay, it's a want, but whatever, I can take it or leave it. Have you ever done anything like that?
Yeah, no, I've done it a few different times in my life. And I think it was really useful, even if that's not exactly who that person was not discovered, right? It was still like a useful exercise. And I do like a divine feminine meditation as well, where I try to invoke this like embodiment of feminine energy in the world and interact with it in like a spiritual way, which I'm getting, it's far out. So I won't go too much into it, but yeah. If anybody's interested, the Scarlet Woman is somebody to look up. So, but and I think, I think it would be useful to revisit that exercise and to really get crystal clear on what I'm looking for. And things have changed since I did that exercise. I've experienced a gender transition to non-binary, right? So a significant shift towards the feminine. I also have discovered that like really pansexual describes me best, and that gender is not as important as I thought it was. Gotcha. So that list is going to be very different than it once was.
I would be fascinated to see what the different lists look like at different points in your life.
I wish I could show you where it was, but I'm just not that organized.
Somewhere lost. You're fine. It's in a pile somewhere, maybe in the trash or recycling, or I don't know.
I think I need to find a way to chart a course forward, that I need to really say, okay, I'm actively pursuing a partner, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it. I am going to do that needs and wants list, and probably start going to like polyamory meetups and speed dating events, just to build my skills of having those conversations, and also build my community in the polyamorous space as well.
Those are beautiful action plans to define with the list. So when would you plan on getting that list written for yourself?
In the next 15 minutes. I'm just kidding.
Love it.
No, I think the way that I work, if I don't get it done this week, if I don't like make a plan this week, then it's going to be a lot less likely to happen. In the next couple days, I'll probably sit down and make that needs and wants list, and then also identify organizations to re-engage with. I think there's already a few mailing lists I'm on. There's virtual speed dating, and then in LA there's in-person speed dating events and other. I think honestly I'm more attracted to networking events than speed dating because it's like less pressure. But yeah,
Yeah, those pressure points.
I prefer to apply the pressure at will as opposed to just be under pressure the whole time.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds like that's a comfort zone that's holding you for a little while longer. I would definitely encourage you to explore that because I know you're obviously very good at pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And as a coach yourself, you already know that when we push those comfort zones, that's where the growth happens. I would love to see that be something that you push against and see what happens there. And it sounds by the weekend's end, you plan on going ahead and mapping out those networking events or potentially the dating events and also getting that wants and needs list done, correct?
Yeah, and I think what would be helpful for me is if we maybe picked a time a month from now for a quick check-in, and just
That would be
because
great.
now I know I need to be accountable. I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to submit a report.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we can catch up.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. Yeah, once we're finished here, let's set the follow-up date. I love that. And what would you say that your biggest takeaway from this session was?
What's really remarkable to me is like I made a list of things that we could talk about, and it's 5 things, and to me they were 5 different things when I wrote them
Yeah.
down, and they're not at all. They're all part of the same conversation. So that's really spectacular that we make that connection and bring it all together, and realize that it's really just one challenge of holding myself back from the pathway to what I want. Right. Fantastic. High five.
And then I have 2 more questions for you, and then
Sure.
we'll wrap it up completely. My next to last question is, what do you feel like your growth edge is in this? Something that's a challenge that you would like to tackle and start really pushing through.
Yeah, no, I think that hopelessness is a problem, right? And so when I feel like there isn't any hope, then I just need to remember that it's not real. And that's me finding a way out of taking responsibility for
Yeah,
making the reality that I want, right?
yeah. That's valuable insight. Very
Yeah.
valuable insight. Beautiful growth edge too.
Yeah. And then
All right.
also that there's this these potential realities, and the fact that I'm okay with a lot of them is actually
Yeah.
really a resource and not a reason to stop trying for those harder ones.
Absolutely. What a gift. Imagine what it must be like for those people who are like, everything has to be exactly this way or it's unacceptable. Man, real narrow options there. You do you.
Yeah.
Okay, so final question, and it's a multi-part answer for you. Um, what are your biggest aha moments, victories, bright spots, things that you feel like should be celebrated from this, what you've discovered?
I think realizing how bright some of these possible futures are, right? Yeah, I think it's really exciting when I think about how cool it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see the excitement on your face. You lit up a little bit. Any other
It,
celebrations? Pictures?
yeah, like the vision of the feeling of being with a partner was really nice. It was really
Mm.
lovely, and it was like easy. That was like the feeling the most. It was like it just feels easier. It doesn't feel so hard as it does today.
When you know how you want to feel, I personally have the viewpoint that sometimes it makes all those little logistic things that we can throw in the way of us actually succeeding, our own stepping stones that become tripping stones. I personally feel like it's a good way to bypass that and go, wait a minute, this is how I want to feel. So, regardless of the logistics, if I don't feel this way, that's something to consider because you live in your body every day. You know how you
Mm-hmm.
feel. So,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not lining up, okay, that's all the tell I need. All the rest of the details are relevant.
That's
So,
right. Yeah,
I'm glad it
exactly.
was helpful. It felt like a good compliment in that moment because I could see that you do have a very clear vision and a lot of awareness. Also, I would say those are things to celebrate too. The fact that you are so self-aware and you do have a plan and you already have some peace with there are all these different possibilities, and no matter what happens, instead of trying to control things that you can't control, which is a trap a lot of us fall into, you are open to flowing with it and knowing that the thing you have control over, which is your actions and your choices and how you respond to the feelings that come up, you already know that you're going to make the best of things. So you definitely have that in your favor of no matter what's happening, you are going to make the most of it and you're going to find happiness. So that's a beautiful trait.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say.
It's the truth, but I'm glad that it feels good.
Thank you. And thank you so much for, for your dogged determination and relentlessness on this.
You're welcome. It's what I do. It's funny because we hadn't really talked about what coaching style that you like, so I wasn't sure what version of myself would come forward because I always judge off of the client and what their needs are and what their wants. And you had some anticipation about it and some nervousness, and you really flowed into it very well and very easily. I think that's the benefit of coaching a coach also. But I honestly expected that I might end up needing to take a little bit more aggressive stance with you, and that didn't happen at all.
I'll be aggressive with you. Let's both be aggressive. Yeah.
Be aggressive together.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and a little bit of housekeeping. If somebody liked what they saw and they want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can go to lmht.org. So that's lmhtea.org. Go to the life coaching section and you can book a session with me through Calendly. And if you don't see something that you like there, just contact me directly and we'll set something up outside of my normal working hours. And something to know as well, this was something that came spur of the moment from last time. The way that I would normally structure my sessions is I do take notes and something that we're going to be having ongoing. And so you would get a document that summarizes what we've talked about, any goals that were set. So that way it's not just something that happens in the moment, but you're going to have that for the future to move forward with that resource and build upon it.
Awesome. And we already had an episode where I was coaching you. So if you like this, you're going to love that.
Yeah, so definitely check that one out. That was fun.
Now, and the comment challenge is going to be, which one do you like better? Comment on the YouTube about which one you like better. So.
I like that. Oh boy, see, that's going to be interesting because we both had such different versions of ourselves that came forward in each one as being coach and coachee. Oh, this is fun. I like this.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you as well. It was wonderful.
Thanks for watching the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast. Support our show at patreon.com/AskEzra. Join us at the personal growth tier and receive a special thank you on the next podcast episode. A very special thank you to both Sarah Nash and Deb Matson for being Patreon supporters at the personal growth tier and helping make the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast possible.